Scooby Dooby Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now.
It's the Halloween period, and what could be spookier than Scooby Doo? I mean, a talking dog, terrifying. Now, Hanna-Barbera cartoons seem to get a fair shake of the stick when it comes to games on micros, and it's unsurprising to learn that Scooby Doo had at least 2 appearances on the Spectrum, but this one in particular I owned, and it stood out to me because I owned 4 or 5 Hanna-Barbera related games, and 2 of those were Yogi Bear, which I've already covered, so you'll likely know how much I hate the game with a passion, and the Flintstones, which I daren't even think about loading back up again because I remember it being even worse. No, Scooby-Doo stuck out in my mind as being at least average.
Zoinks! Zoinks! Zoinks!
That doesn't sound like great stakes in the grand scheme of things. Ooh, I can't wait to get home and play that average Scooby-Doo game, but it was one of those games that you played every so often when you couldn't be arsed with the stuff that you'd already played to death. Stick Scooby-Doo on, you'll probably say to yourself, that game's fine. And that's no great surprise when you consider the people behind it. These were the guys behind Shockwave Rider, which again I've already covered, Heavy on the Magic, Ad Astra, Turn Our Nogue, which we can all argue about in the comments as to whether I'm saying that correctly again, because it's fun to cause chaos. Anyway, you get the picture. They had a good track record, and truthfully, Scooby-Doo stands out like a bit of a sore thumb when you look at the rest of the games they've put together. It's the only game in that list that smells like doing it for a paycheck. And that's not completely fair, mind. If Scooby-Doo is a paycheck game, one that's rushed out the door with a license slapped on the box for good measure, then they did a damn better job than most. Having replayed it, I'm surprised to find that my opinions on the game are basically exactly the same as they were when I was 8, only a bit more nuanced. Where, when I was younger, I might have thought, this game is okay. As a fully grown, mature, male, adult man, my opinion is, it's a bit shit, but it's also a bit good. So let's start with the good. I mean, it looks really nice. It's fairly basic in colour, but look at it. You can't look at that and say, what's that going to be, some sort of dog? You'd look at that and say, that's bloody Scooby-Doo, that is. I mean, no prizes for that, obviously. It's got that name plastered across half the screen. But if you were to just focus on the dog and the dog alone, you'd know who that was. So as a child who was used to getting licensed games that barely resembled the thing they were supposed to be, that's definitely a plus point. Thematically, it's roughly on the same page as the cartoons. You, as Scooby, have to go and rescue all of the mystery bus people who have, for reasons, been decapitated and their heads put into jars. Once again, the heads within those jars do look like the people they're supposed to as well, such as Velma, Daphne, and Matt Damon. You come across ghosts and monsters and whatnot, and eventually you have to go and capture a mad scientist, but spoiler alert, I don't get that far, so you'll just have to take my word for it. Now, I haven't discussed the gameplay, because I'm pretty confident from the footage you've already seen on screen, you'll know exactly what's going on, but let me break it down for you. You move around in a maze, being attacked from all sides by paranormal pains in the arse, and Scooby-Doo has to use his amazing dance routine to make them re-deaded. The only other mechanics in play are climbing up and down ladders, moving left and right, ducking and jumping, and I shouldn't have to explain any of those to anyone. If those concepts are foreign to you, then you need to get out more. So let's talk about the controls, because it took me a little while to click with it, specifically attacking. You need to get used to holding down space and a direction, left or right, to continuously attack. You don't need to time it perfectly or anything, but you do need to be able to face the right way at a moment's notice. The game is fairly lenient with the hitboxes, but it's most definitely not lenient with the amount of stuff it throws at you. It's also quite lenient in the number of lives it gives you and the number of extra lives you find along the way, but this is merely to lure you into the false sense of security. At the age of 8, I could get to level 2. At the age of 38, I could get to level 4. The game is relentless, and sometimes it just sticks its middle finger up at you and says, I'm taking a life off you, and there's literally nothing you can do about it. Many a time you'll come across a situation whereby your reactions have to be perfectly on point, or situations where reactions just don't even matter, you're just screwed. Each new level tends to include a longer maze to get through, more enemies to deal with, and more chances to die. By level 4, you're being accosted by ghosts and bowling balls, which is just too goddamn much, especially when it takes so damn long to even get there. And that's the main issue, really. Scooby-Doo's stupid static attack animation and the endless streams of enemies together means, well, you're standing around a lot. It sort of ends up playing a bit like Green Beret, but at least Green Beret had levels that went from A to B. Imagine playing Green Beret, but every now and then you fell down a hole and it put you halfway back through the level. That'd be annoying, wouldn't it? Yes, it would. It's no different here because there's no fluidity. The game moves at a fairly rapid pace. It really wants to feel like an action game, but the level designs and the combat just don't fit the bill. If you rush, you die. And yet, after all that griping, I still kind of like it. There's almost no reason to return to it because there are a million games out there that do something similar to this, but better. And that was probably true of the time it came out, let alone 30 years later. But as a piece of entertainment that fit perfectly into that slot of acceptable mediocrity, Scooby-Doo did fine. It was fine. It's okay. It's a bit shit, but it's a bit good. And sometimes, when you're 8 years old, that's all you really need on a rainy afternoon.